pretty bad. The Raptors lose 145 to 113. The first time we've seen them empty their bench in quite some time, and they get absolutely shellacked by the Utah Jazz, who have been on a good run of play lately, have turned their season around with a lot more health, a lot more punch in the backcourt, something that the Raptors didn't really get tonight. And the Raptors lose their third game in a row. I was, coming into this West Coast road trip, I thought that the Raptors were going to be, I thought that it would be 3-3 or 4-2, to be quite honest with you. And they were on a decent run. They had played a lot of good basketball, and even against the Clippers, without Yak, without Pascal, I thought they had played good basketball. Against the Lakers, I thought they deserved to win. I still think they got a little bit jobbed by the reffing down the stretch. Against the Kings, they meandered their way through a lot of the game. They made a mad dash at the end, but it's I think there's something happening here in that you can see the toll. We've seen this happen over a longer stretch of time, but you can see the toll of not having that Jakob Pertl situation. Not having Jakob, everybody coming into the front court, it's tough to contend night after night. Phoenix Plays donates $2 and asks, Pascal quiet quitting on defense? Yeah. This has been, I've had scouts and other journalists reaching out to me about info on Pascal. Scouts are obviously trying to get information for teams and stuff like that, and journalists for their coverage. And I have to be honest, Pascal, his defensive intensity, not necessarily on the perimeter. I still think his compete level there is pretty good. But on the inside, there's just very little resistance. You can see it. This has been going on for a large portion of the season. He was still grading out as a positive defensively. It has reached a level that's been tough, but I don't want to just completely focus on Pascal here. They allowed 145, and Pascal was the Raptors' best player tonight and has been maybe the fifth most efficient scorer in the entire NBA for a month and a half. He's been incredible on that end of the floor. He scored 27 points on 14 shots tonight. I don't want to be too down on him, but as far as quiet quitting defensively, yes, we've talked about this on other episodes of the podcast after games, trying to maintain health, trying to not put yourself in dangerous positions and all that kind of stuff. Andre says, remember when he was free safety on defense under Nurse? Yeah, he used to be one of the most explosive backline rim protectors and guys who bust up stuff like that. But the defensive stuff from a number of places on the Raptors was just not good tonight. I thought RJ, I didn't think his offense was as bad as it looked. I thought he still made pretty good decisions on offense, even though he finished 2 for 9. He got benched to start the second half. I'm not worried about his process. He took good shots. He just bricked layups. And as far as his defense, I thought it was really, really bad. Gary replaced him. I thought Gary's defense was really, really bad. And his offense, it wasn't even better than RJ's. I don't know what happened. Adnan Hawk says, I don't know squat about the NBA. Could be. Phoenix Plays says Pascal 2020 versus Boston was the top 3 defender in the bubble. Yeah, Jacob Goldstein got hired by the Washington Wizards, and he had a PIPM was his catch-all metric, and I think the Wizards bought that as well, so it's no longer out in the public domain. And his PIPM was ranked, I believe Siakam was 3rd as far as defensive impact. He was crazy back then. But yeah, Pascal is killing it offensively, and he's taking breathers on defense for sure. But one guy does not allow 145 points. The team as a whole is not providing a lot of defensive coverage. Emmanuel Quickly, his punch on ball has not been very good. I think he's been good off ball mostly. His closeouts, I think, are really sharp. And, RJ, I think, had a really tough game. Jonte and Thad, and whether you think it's Boucher or Jalen McDaniels, none of those guys had meaningful stretches on defense. Scotty was able to hunt for 3 blocks, and I thought he had 4 watching the game. I'm not sure why it's sitting at 3. And he didn't get one of those Fred VanVleet block steal type things. But even Scotty was not strong defensively. This team has not been strong defensively. Guys are not in as comfortable positions. They've been on a long road trip. They've been playing big teams. They've faced Anthony Davis, Zubats, Walker Kessler, and they've been pummeled. And even before that, the defense wasn't that great either. So there's a lot of stuff going on for this team. And the Jazz, they played awesome basketball. Like they're on one right now. Colin Sexton, I think, has provided like so much dribble penetration. He's provided so much rim pressure. Some of like his rumbles to the basket at his size were really, really impressive. And like Jordan Clarkson was pulling like crazy. Keontae George has been like super inefficient this year. I think he's shooting 36% on the year, but even he had some nice laydowns to the big men, like a little bit of creation off the bounce. Fontecchio hit 3 triples, 2 of them to start the second half, these rainbows. And Lauri Markkanen is like an awesome scorer, and he can plug in and start scoring whenever he wants. And Chris Dunn, I thought, was awesome defensively. That is a big reason why the Raptors struggled tonight. They lost the backcourt battle and they lost the frontcourt battle. The only like I think Scotty and Pascal offensively, like in the first half when it was really just revolving around Quickly and Scotty, they both scored a little bit, but the offense overall really struggled. In the second half it got stronger as they involved Pascal more often, and then Pascal obviously went nuts from 3. I think he had 3 triples over the course of like 6 or 7 possessions. And as far as like the wing stuff, sure, the Raptors like held serve there, but they lost the front court battle, as one might have expected with Thad and Jonte. Jonte played 31 minutes, and I still don't feel bad about Jonte. I thought he competed well. He's a two-way player. I tweeted about this. I said, like, he didn't win his matchup, but he won some battles along the way. That's all you can ask for from that guy. And yeah, Thad just had nothing in this game. Might be a little bit gassed. Long road trip, been playing up against guys quite a bit. More minutes in this set of the season, like I think twice as many minutes in this little package of games than he had played the whole season to this point. They just didn't perform tonight. They got killed. Absolutely. Dennis's point of attack defense has taken a bit of a fall off too. Like Quickly, he goes 3-3 from downtown. He scored a little bit, got the free throw line, but as has been the case in some stretches, he's not able to kind of build out these offensive sets. Like he's not playmaking to all spots on the floor. He's not always capable to like draw defense into places to create looks for others unless there's like, off ball and weak side action built into these sets and stuff like that. So that's kind of a bunch of stuff that happened in this game. The Raptors were always going to lose this game in the front court. Always. They didn't have to lose it in the backcourt, and they did. And that's maybe a little bit too bad. And some of that is the Jazz like canning awesome triples and having RJ blow layups wasn't any good. But yeah, the Raptors they weren't able to muster up anything of import in this game. I think I can't remember how many lineups they had that played over like 3.5, like 4 minutes together, but they only had one lineup among that was actually a positive. So all of their high volume lineups, none of them came out as a positive except for Pascal, Jonte, Gary, RJ, and Dennis. And that could just be linked to like a little bit of hot shooting. And they didn't manage the hot shooting like from 3. They shot well in this game, but they couldn't muster up anything in the in the first half and in the paint. So Lil Yo-Yo says RJ didn't blow layups. He isn't good at finishing at the rim. Let's not show Canadian bias. No, do you guys think I don't watch basketball? Why do you guys think like coaches and players like my stuff? If I'm saying something, I've watched the games, I've watched the reps. I'm well aware of, RJ's statistical profile, but the reason why he was able to overachieve as a finisher seemingly once he joined the Raptors is that he's taking easier shots. Like his clearance at the rim has been better. He's taken better shots. And tonight he took pretty good shots. He missed some stuff at the rim. Overall, though, in the paint, he's made a lot more shots. And it's not because he's shooting over his head at the rim. He's making layups he can always make. He shot better from 3 than usual, of course, but them's the breaks, man. It's he had a bad shooting game. That's what it is. I don't think that's Canadian bias. I was covering, the FIBA And I came on here and I talked about how bad Barrett was and how inconsistent Barrett was, and I'm very familiar with his shot profile over the course of his career, but, I don't yeah, I don't know. He missed easy layups. He'll make some more in the future. His decision making was pretty good. He didn't, commandeer the offense. He didn't say like, "No, this possession is mine," and like go crashing into people. His pacing was about the same as it has been on a lot of other plays, getting to the left side, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think like he blew some tonight. He maybe made a couple. Like there was a spinning layup into the lane against the Sacramento Kings. He had a one-on-one possession, kind of a bully drive that he made for an N1. He's not going to make that one all the time, but when he's like taking that hesitation dribble, seeing how the dropping big is going to split the difference between his roller on like a weak side action, and especially like when in an empty side action, and when the weak side there's no tag or nobody like pinching in, he can get to the left side of the basket on this Raptors team. It's something he is able to do. Aubrey Losoho says, Samson, did you get that top out of Walt Frazier's closet? I'm so happy with this jacket, man. This is one of my favorite jackets I've ever had. It's great. I look like I'm wearing like grandma's couch, but it's cool, right? Um, yeah. DR says it wasn't just RJ. Everyone had trouble scoring tonight. Yeah, except Pascal. And Pascal, it's what now 10 games in a row where he hasn't shot less than 54% from the field. Do you know how insane that is? That like he has been here. I have the synergy numbers for everybody. So just to kind of update everybody on the Pascal of it all. So prior to this game, where Pascal scored 27 points on 14 shots, over the last 2 weeks, and this doesn't even encapsulate how good Pascal's been because he's been unbelievable as a scorer over the past month and a half. But as far as points per possession over the last 2 weeks, 7th was Pascal Siakam, 26 points per game on 20.4 used possession, 1.27 points per possession. That is the guys he's shooting the same percentage as. Kevin Durant, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, Jared Allen, Jalen Duren, Nikola Jokic. And as far as like points per game, the only guys who are shooting better than him are Kevin Durant and Shai. Everyone else is lower usage, and they get like, especially when you look at like Jalen Duren, Jared Allen, Chet Holmgren, Chet the least of all, but especially the former two, those guys, they're getting a lot of laydowns at the rim, a lot of dunks, all that kind of stuff. It's been incredible to watch him work offensively. He found his way as far as like, and even Dennis has been ninth. Like his points per possession has been 1.25 for like 16 points per game. The Dennis and Pascal offensive creation over the past 2 weeks has been nuts. And Pascal, you can extend like as far as you can just keep going back. Slomo says keep holding water for Pascal. He doesn't fit the roster or timeline. I get on here and I talk about the players after every single game. And this isn't holding, like, you understand, like, Pascal has been one of the best and most efficient offensive creators in all of the NBA. It would be wrong of me as somebody who covers the team to not talk about that. I know you guys want me, like, there's a certain sect of people who want me to just say, like, Pascal's bad, he doesn't fit, and you want me to speak to the version of the team that you like. I have to speak about the team that is here right now. Not everyone listens to this stuff to hear me trash players or to do propaganda or anything like that. When Scotty is like popping off, we talk a lot about it. We've talked about Scotty more than any other player this year. Deservedly so, right? He's been the Raptors' best player. But your guys' expectation of propaganda or whatever, I'm talking about basketball. I'm not holding water. I'm not doing anything. It's extremely immature and it's like short-sighted and it's myopic. We're talking about basketball. So let's go over a play that the Raptors ran wherein Scotty, who has been much improved in the pick and roll this year, and because of the different way that he's able to create defensive changes at the point of attack in the pick and roll, we get an opportunity for Emmanuel quickly to make a really good cut. So here we go. Here we go. Everyone can hear. We've got a basic, this isn't really a big set action, but we've got a basic play that you in pickup, wherever you want to be, you can make this play. It's one of the best cuts in the world. It's the same side 45 cut, especially if the guy who is on ball, like Scotty, has a bunch of gravity on ball, is able to create that step up. So we have The Raptors, they have Pascal in the strong side corner, RJ in the weak side corner. Very simple play. Fantastic. IQ brings the ball up the floor. He runs a little handoff up top to Scotty Barnes. From right here to right here. Scotty's now on the right side of the floor. He runs now a pick and roll with Jonte Porter. As he's going to his left, Emmanuel quickly sees his guy pinch in to try and crowd Scotty's driving lane because Scotty is such a good driver and was pressuring the rim early in this game. The defense has to have a defensive response. So when he pinches in, Emmanuel quickly immediately makes that 45 cut behind him. Scotty, being one of the best playmakers in the world, makes that little bounce pass. IQ gets to the rim, draws a foul. Really great play. It's not fancy. It's not anything really. And like credit to Pascal, who's been shooting the hell out of the basketball to keep somebody there that they didn't want to help off that much because he's been so insane from the corners. But as far as like a cut you want to make, as far as like what you want to do in your own life when you play basketball and what you want to see from the players on your team, the same side 45 cut. I know it feels like you're trying to get through a pinhole, but try and get through that pinhole. You'll be surprised how often you come out on the other side open, especially if your guy is paying attention, your guy or girl or whoever, and whatever it is, whoever's paying attention, find your way, wriggle through, and you might, get a layup on the other side of it. Really great cut from IQ, and a credit to Scotty to be able to draw that type of attention at the point of attack, because a lot of stuff last year, especially, one of the most common coverages against Scotty was a switch or a push switch. And if you're push switching, IQ's guy doesn't have to creep over because there's no dribble penetration because you switched it. Easy to set the edge on a switch. You're only worried about the isolation that comes after, right? Credit to Scotty, who's been way better at navigating different coverages in the pick and roll and creating these types of defensive responses. We also had an ATO and a popular one, Iverson loop. I've talked about this one before, but basically an Iverson cut is across the top of two guys. And this is something that the Philadelphia 76ers would run back in like the early 2000s a ton for Allen Iverson to get him out wide with the ball. And then they'd flip the two guys he cut over into a double drag, a 77. And that would create lanes for him to, if he wanted to split the screens, he could, or go over top and get out wide with a live dribble. That's how they got him the ball. The Iverson loop is basically IQ is going to enter to the ball to Jonte Porter at the top as Pascal loops around, and his defender is going to get caught on Dennis Schroeder. This is a small to big screen. So if they don't get, if he doesn't come clear the whole way, they can establish a post up for him as well. So this is another tidy little play. They've run it mostly for OG this year, but they have run it for Scotty and for Pascal. It's a great little play. Really big fan of it. Bad game though. Really bad game. The Raptors, they can't sort it out. It's been tough. Somebody who wants some fun stats, I guess we can go to one just so people know. I wrote this piece on Pascal as he went through his 5 of 52 3-point shooting stretch, the worst of his career. And when I was looking through all that kind of stuff, I looked through Pascal's career in 15-game segments to see what his best stretch was, which was 45% over the course of 15 games. And what he has done, I believe he went 30 over his past however many games, every game since his big stretch where he went 5 for 52, 96% or 9.6% from the 3-point line. Terrible. Is the worst he's ever had. It's been incredible. And then that immediately, the next game he starts a stretch where he's now, I believe, 30 of 58 from 3. He has rubber banded. The regression positively has been insane. Hard to even fathom how good he's been shooting the 3 ball lately. And it's been a big part of the Raptors, resurgence offensively is obviously Pascal finding his spot in the offense, and he's been one of the highest efficient, fantastic offensive creators in the NBA over however long. And that's been really fun to see. For the people who wonder about, like, the structure of the Raptors offense, it'll be different now, but coming into this game, and I looked this up for NBA.com/stats, touches per game was Scotty was at 67.6, Quickly was at 64.2, Dennis was at 64, Jakob was at 54.8, Pascal was at 53.8, and RJ was at 48.4. These are the touches, the amount of touches a guy gets since the trade. Seconds per touch, touch time, all that kind of stuff. RJ, Pascal, Scotty are mostly spending a similar amount of time on ball on average each time they touch it. IQ and Dennis as the guards, they spend a longer time on ball, almost 2 times as long, and Jakob spends a very short amount of time on ball since they're trying to work stuff through the high post, and he runs a lot of those, like, little get actions and dribble handoff actions. And this isn't the night where you look at their offense. I think their half court rating was 96.9, which is middle of the pack. Nothing to, like, write home about. But over the course of, the trade and all that kind of stuff, I think that they've found, like, a really healthy balance with Scotty as the leader, with Scotty as the focal point, and IQ as, a second focal point, and having, RJ and Pascal kind of working off of that and being, like, really opportunistic as scorers. Yeah. I wonder what happens with the team going forward. It's obviously not great. They've lost 3 games in a row. It seemed like they were stretching, into, positive territory. Slow-mo says 3-4 since the trade. It was 3-1 at one point in time. And, the loss seemed like that was an encouraging loss. And then, the Lakers game, you're like, okay, they got jobbed. And then the Clippers game, you're like, okay, they didn't have Pascal or Jakob. And then this game, you're like, damn, they just got the brakes beaten off of them. What do you do about that, right? It's the NBA. The other teams want to win. They want it bad. They want it really, really bad. They just, what I said at the start, I guess I'll reiterate it quickly. But yeah, they lost the backcourt battle by a demonstrable amount, and they lost the frontcourt battle by a demonstrable amount. I thought they had a chance to win the backcourt battle coming into this game. This was not IQ's best. This was not RJ's best. This was not Dennis's best. I don't think they got, like, an elevated performance out of any of their guards, really. And the front court, I thought that Dejounte Porter competed well. I think that he still shapes to the ball really well as far as, like, his defensive stuff. He makes pretty good decisions on offense. He's a little bit limited by, like, his vertical pop and some quickness stuff. And, we're waiting for the 3-point shot to, like, hit a little bit more meaningfully. But I thought he hung in defensively, which is the most important part. And there were several plays that I thought, like, yeah, he's finding the space on defense and he's providing help, but not enough. And he certainly, Dejounte Porter, is not the linchpin of successful defense. You hope that he would be able to step in and help maintain something. This is what we talked about with Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett. It's meaningful that those guys come over from New York, where they have both existed within an elite defense before. You know that they're not cratering it. And especially Emmanuel Quickly was the fourth, for the 4th year in a row, was the on-off winner, the plus-minus winner of the Knicks. He was the best. And that's a meaningful stat. Of course, that's contextual, but if you keep finding yourself on the side of really good numbers, you can start looking in the context for things that allow that to happen. Whereas, it's better to look for stuff that works well than to look for stuff that doesn't, for, like, a guy who's losing their minutes. For example, there's some guys who just defy that, right? Like, Scotty's been the best Raptor so far this season when you account for, like, offense and defense. I think Pascal's been better offensively, but, Scotty's been a better defender. I think overall Scotty has been better, and he's a negative as far as, like, the on-offs this season, but that's just a guy who's had to carry some really tough lineups, and that isn't a super strong indicator. Steph Curry, for example, when the Warriors have really good defenses, you can see that he exists strongly in part of those defenses. But when they have bad defenses, he's not able to help lift them out of anything. Phoenix Plays E asks, do I think IQ's underhand touch is a result of how much contact he can embrace without being thrown off balance? Partially. There's been some, like, underhand, like those scoop layups that he's just missed that you're like, there's not a lot of contact. I think he could really benefit from using that extra dribble, and the extra dribble is, like, something that Dennis Schroeder uses well. Dennis does there's a million things that IQ does better than Dennis, but, you use that extra dribble into, like, a quick scoop instead of using, picking up the ball one dribble earlier into that elongated scoop, which is really what Emmanuel quickly likes to do. If you use that extra dribble, you can maybe get the defense to step over, compromise a little bit more. You can turn the scoop into like a swing, like a wrap pass around the baseline or something like that. And if you're working from that spot on the floor, dragging the defense a little bit farther and having like your steps, because you can pick up into a pivot and start working from there instead of like if you pick up from way far out and you're trying to get to the rim, you're going to use all your steps to try and get to the glass. If you use that one more dribble, you'll have more options once you get deeper in the paint. Anybody who's played basketball if you're a guard, your coaches kind of stress that to you, that extra dribble, maintaining a live dribble for as long as possible. And then if you're deep, maintaining that pivot so you have adaptability in there to play make, all that kind of stuff. Ben says, hit the like button, you cowards. He's absolutely correct. Make sure you like it. It's free. I hope you guys are enjoying this, and it helps recommend this stuff to other people who want to see my silly little journal drawings, the notebook. Andre says, is the answer to defensive struggles different schemes or new players? I think that there is a few compounding factors. The Raptors do not have strong defenders in the front court right now. Like, I know everybody was happy with Thad, and Thad played better than expected, and like that's cute, but it's not good. You're not going to hold down a front court situation when it's like Pascal, who we talked at the top, like quiet quitting defensively. Especially on the back line, his defensive intensity and buy-in has just not been there. Thad is not going to account for like 1.5 front court positions. Neither is Jonte. Neither of them are probably going to account for one by themselves, right? And Pascal, like on a good game, if he gets good matchups on the perimeter, all that kind of stuff, yeah. He clearly, it is what it is. Pascal is clearly trying to avoid crashing into guys around the rim on defense, jumping with guys, all that kind of stuff. He's doing like the James Harden swipes. That's a thing that's happening. He's still been a positive player, but that's a thing that's happening. The moment he signs an extension with a team, I suspect he jumps more often. If you had to ask me personally. And you know what? I don't blame him for that. I don't blame players, especially on like the low yield and like low intensity Raptors right now. His defense isn't going to save anything. In close games, he does jump. In close games, he does stuff like that, like down the stretch. But over the course of like the games and all that kind of stuff, yeah, it's less intense. And the Raptors, as far as what they want to do defensively, their contain at the point of attack has been less impressive. They're extending their shell to the 3-point line quickly and being like not quickly the player, but expeditiously, let's say, to get to the 3-point line to help suppress 3-point shots and give good contests. That's meaningful, right? And as far as the court coverage after you suppress the 3-point shot on dribble drives, not everyone is able to contend. So that's where a lot of it is coming from. And a $3 donation from Omi Boy or Om Boy says, maybe Pirtle is good, ? Pirtle, when he's on, is like a high quality center. Totally. His best stretch, he can hang around like 10, 12th best center in the NBA. Over the course of the season, maybe you're getting like between 15 to 18. Over the course of this season, it hasn't been his best at all. So maybe you're getting like, I don't know, 18 to 24, somewhere in there. The farther you go down the line, the quicker trends and runs of play impact where guys have been sitting. But yeah, like OG was quiet quitting on defense too. He turned it up immediately once he got to New York, but he was not giving it his all, when he was in Toronto. Not close. So yeah. Dog 2233 says, if you were to get a prospect for Pascal, who would Samson pick? Who is the best gettable prospect? I would have to. I don't feel that it's Jarris, But I do think that consensus of Jarris and gettability, he is the high point of that, that intersection. That's what I think. Like Jarris Walker is, I think, the guy with the most like pedigree, potential, and expectation as seen by a wide view of people that they actually could get. Jarris is gettable from Indiana. Could happen. I don't know if it will. It could. As far as like who else, man, I don't know. I think Jarris is probably the high watermark, but there's maybe questions about Jarris and all that kind of stuff. Ian says, I saw a couple clips that Caitlin Cooper posted on Twitter of Jarris on defense, and he looks so lost. Yeah, Jarris is like lost on a lot of stuff. But you don't make a trade for a rookie expecting, a return in the first season. Maybe not even the first couple, right? If the Raptors want to get the best player available immediately, you're probably looking at like Kevin Herter or maybe Andrew Nemhard, maybe Josh Green. I think that's kind of those three players. I think probably give you the best chance at impact immediately, and that's kind of what it is. I'm not going to pretend to know like a ton about Jarris. I talked to Caitlin. I've asked about him a little bit before. If he does end up on the Raptors, I will ask her a lot, and I will do it on video and audio for everyone listening if that's the case. But he hasn't played enough with the Pacers to like for me to passively see it while doing my Pacers watch. I know a lot more about Nemhard than I do Jarris. I watch some 905 stuff, but I'm not watching the Pacers G League affiliate. Like that's not what I'm doing. So I don't know enough about Jarris. And there are some people in chat who definitely know way more about Jarris than I do, who loved Houston and loved what he did there, and they have ideas about his potential. But I'll say based on consensus, I think Jarris is probably the highest profile prospect that the Raptors can get for Pascal. That's what I think. The Pascal stuff is really interesting. If you want to hear me talk about it with more research done into the trade market, February 6th, Rivoli, downtown Toronto. Last year, we sold it out for the pre-trade deadline live podcast. Even if you just want to come like talk basketball with me, in between panels and afterwards, I was in like Rivoli for like, I don't know, 5 hours, just talking to people. Anything you want to ask me, come hang out and chat, and we can just talk basketball or whatever the hell you want to talk about. It's a cool opportunity for people who enjoy, writers and, talkers, podcasters to come and like, if I'm somebody who you listen to a lot of the time or you like my work, then like we can talk about anything. Shake hands, shoot the shit, all that kind of stuff. I'm a good hang, I promise. I'll try and get some testimonials on that. So that's my pitch. We also have a few really special guests that will be there. That should make it like really interesting, not just from a trade deadline point of view, but like a basketball point of view. So stay tuned for that. February 6th, go to raptorsrepublic.com, buy your tickets. I listened to like the Bill Burr podcast like one time, and he did his ads for like 8 minutes. So I don't feel so bad doing like a minute long. Hey, we're doing stuff. You can buy tickets. Yeah, those are my thoughts on like the trade stuff. I do want to say there's a couple really good plays that I want to highlight. Scotty dunked the same dunk he got on Max Christie against the Lakers that they didn't call the and one on. He had the same one tonight. He also had it on Kevin Durant. It's one of my favorite plays of anybody in the NBA. He's so powerful. His legs, like to be able to extend the legs while still managing to like be able to load up. Like, when I can't dunk now. I haven't dunked since the pandemic. But when I was dunking, I was a 2-foot jumper. I would, gather kind of like a volleyball jump, right? You gather, plant the right, plant the left, close, boom, like you're powering up from there. Scotty doesn't need to do that. His arms go forever, but he can like extend so long with each leg and still load up on one, like his left leg, go up, take contact, and just finish over guys at the rim. He's so powerful. It's a marvel to watch him do that kind of stuff. He had a lot of really like fantastic drives in the first half too, turning the corner, like just like skirting around the edge of Olynyk before getting fouled. There's like a really nice possession that he did that too. And so really impressive stuff from in this game. And then also I think RJ's was on Kelly Olynyk as well, but RJ like driving right, knowing that Olynyk's trying to cut that lane off, gather, puts like right shoulder through left shoulder and just rips through. He's so strong going downhill, rips through, turns Olynyk, who's way bigger, weighs way more pounds, into a turnstile, steps through and finishes at the bucket. I was like, damn, that's really nice. In a game that wasn't the best, I love that pickup and pull through from, RJ. That step through was sick. Some good stuff from the Raptors, but just you allow 145 points? No, sir. No, sir. C4C asks, is Kuminga really that good, though? I am a Kuminga believer. I like Kuminga a lot. I think he has a ton of utility as a perimeter defender. I think that he has a ton of utility in the future as a backline helper. And I think that he is somebody who provided their spacing in the offense, which the future of the Raptors, depending on how it goes, I think they will have. I think that Kuminga is a guy who can be like a fantastic rim runner, a fantastic cutter, and a guy who like there's some strength creation stuff that you might be able to bet on. Now, is he the best, like as far as his feel for the game, making reads in the in-between stuff? I don't think so, but he's so athletic. He plays with a lot of conviction, and I think that there's a lot of stuff that he can do above average, and I think he could end up being elite at some of the stuff that he does well currently. And that's how I feel about Kuminga. And then that's Phoenix Plays Z asks, you don't think Kuminga is gettable? I'm talking about like consensus. I think I like Kuminga better than Jarris currently, but I think consensus is that Jarris has more value than Kuminga. But it's nebulous to try and I talk to as many people as I can. I'm not the big wig Raptors reporter who gets on the horn with Masai or Bobby and talks about it, right? Like that's not what I'm able to do. I am different avenues to try and get information and stuff like that, and less powerful people. So the information is subject to change, and it's more, it's just more, I guess, anecdotal, and also like that's just how it is. I'm not particularly upset about it because most of my work is done through analysis, like just the basketball stuff, not the economics of basketball, not the transactions and all that kind of stuff. So not too big a deal. It doesn't bother me if I don't know what's going to happen with the Raptors. I wish I could tell you guys since, everybody wants to know, but I'll find out. I'll find out when you guys do to some degree. Some things I know a little earlier, but yeah, them's the breaks. Feels like mostly a podcast, right, everybody? That feels like a podcast. Like, what else would we talk about? Oh, okay, actually, Kelly Olynyk. What a play he made. Okay, so I'm Kelly Olynyk driving down the lane. I'm trying to go right. I cross back left. Pascal Siakam is right on my hip. He's playing great defense. Suddenly, I'm Kelly Olynyk, and I transmogrify into Luka Doncic as I stutter Euro, and I drag out both steps so much. I'm delaying that action, right? Just this big, long, drawn out Euro. And I go up for the push shot and I spy a lob and I just throw it to the opposite side of the rim and you get a dunk. And I'm like, holy smokes, man. For one possession at a time, he's Luka. Kelly Olynyk is such a cool player. I hope he ends up on a contender at some point. He hasn't played super important basketball in a little while, but he's a very, very unique bench guy out of the front court. One of the most unique in the league. OG3 says, did you say feckless? Rebounding and defense was feckless. Let's hit the feckless air horn. Yeah, feckless. Feckless defensive effort tonight. That's true. Joseph Cassidy says, did I miss the labor rights rant? No, I don't think I have one for anybody tonight. What I do have is, SDPN. You guys have seen him on the podcast. For anybody listening or watching, it's Fandy Arberehaney. a dear friend of mine, fantastic at what he does. Um, he will have work with Forbes and Raptors Republic going forward. Stay tuned for that. But he was laid off from the Steve Dangle Podcast Network. Go follow him on Twitter and stay tuned to all of his work. He's fantastic at it. And just, a little more support for him just because, that's success. And he'll be doing something soon, I'm sure, but just go follow him so you know what he's doing. Buster Marblethorn. 10 out of 10 name. 10 out of 10, man. Quote, why does Canada still like hockey so much? It's 2024. I grew up in Saskatchewan, so I played hockey until I was like 15. And so I was playing what they call, I don't know if they still call it midget hockey, but I was playing midget hockey before I hit my growth spurt. I was like 5'3". I was such a small guy. And as far as like the culture around hockey, I didn't like it very much. I played basketball, like a decent level of basketball, and I never noticed it getting like as regressive or as like toxic in a lot of the ways that I think people understand hockey culture to be. I just didn't notice that in basketball. Basketball has become in my life one of the best ways I've been able to make friends. When I lived in Mexico, playing on the courts there was like a great way to make friends and all that kind of stuff. Um, I haven't found hockey to have like the same level of like diversity or community, and it still has a lot of like regressive aspects to it. And that's maybe like the most difficult aspect of it, I would say, is that people get turned off from it. And there's also like CTE and other, situations. My favorite player was Paul Correa, and his brain got beat around while he was playing like crazy. And he has to be so careful the rest of his life about his noggin and all that kind of stuff. So hockey has its like downsides, but I really liked playing hockey, like playing, shinny or like scrimmaging around and all that kind of stuff was fun. I think it's a really unique sport. I think playoff hockey is like very obviously like compelling and engaging and exciting. And the variance of hockey is really, really like, man, there's a lot of like as a sport, it's so unique and it's cool. But yeah, the culture stuff, as Ben says, Hockey Canada has a sexual assault fund. I like the reporting around that kind of stuff and what's come out over the past however many years, I think is like a natural progression of how people understand how things have been around hockey for so long. Anybody, anybody who played hockey, anybody who saw what happens there, I don't think is like shouldn't. If you were surprised by that kind of stuff going on, I think you were maybe a bit ignorant or unaware, and maybe choose to be that kind of thing. But yeah, hockey. I hope it has a brighter future in Canada as far as like what kind of culture it has around it. Yeah. Phoenix Blazy says it's almost 1 a.m. about to fall asleep. Like, sub, comment for the algorithm. That's right. We should all go to bed now. It's almost 1 a.m. Certainly not the 2 a.m. ones we've been doing after the Lakers and Clippers games, but that feels like a podcast, right? We move. The Raptors still have decisions to make about their roster. They still have decisions to make about, how things are going to go. They have some home games coming up. I'm excited to talk to the players again because I haven't been able to talk to them in weeks, almost a month, because the last game I covered in Toronto was the Denver game. And as far as anything else, they've been gone. And I was also in Saskatchewan. So I haven't talked to the guys. I have to talk to Emmanuel quickly about his jump shot and unique aspects of it and all that kind of stuff. I've talked to a bunch of the players. So I'm excited for that. And I hope they play good basketball once they get home. We move. All right, everybody. To the people in chat, thank you for being engaging, as always, insightful and kind, and hanging out on a late night. My thoughts on the Jerry Krause stuff. They booed an old woman who I don't think had any tangential relation to basketball decision making. That's a little bit tough. That's my thoughts on that. For all the other stuff, listeners of the podcast, hope you're enjoying while walking the dog, just hanging out by yourself, whatever the hell you do when you listen to this kind of stuff. Glad to chat. Okay, everybody. Whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day. Have a blessed day. And goodbye. We will see you.